Hi, happy Saturday. Welcome to our Inside Texas live show on a Saturday morning. I'm not used to Sundays, Joe. I'm off my game right now. You can hear it in my voice, but me and Joe hanging out on a Saturday morning with all our Inside Texas folks, fine by me. How are you doing, brother?
We're good. We're good. This is an interesting time of year. Three official visit weekends. So Texas is rolling out the red carpet for some of the top prospects on their board. A lot of defensive guys in this week, and then as the title says, we got a super regional to track a little bit as well.
Hey, yeah, absolutely. I had a lot of good news on the diamond this weekend with obviously Texas softball crossing that finish line for the second year in a row, bringing home another national title. Love seeing Tegan Kavan having a little fun, taking a couple of pictures on a particular rival's campus on the way home. But hey, real quick, guys, make sure you're taking advantage of that Inside Texas flash sale. $1 for the first month, and you're getting half off the rest of the year. And you can get all of these fine recruiting updates about all these defensive studs, and then of course all the baseball updates, everything else going on throughout the summertime on the 40 acres. So come be with us on Inside Texas I3, and let's have a little bit of fun there. So thanks so much for being here, guys. And let's start it off with a pretty popular name that was on campus. You saw a lot of reaction to this official visit when it was made public this week. But Jalen Brewster, a big time Tech commit on the defensive line, but he's spending a little bit of time on the 40. How's that looking for Texas, brother?
Yeah, number one overall prospect in the country, and this isn't like the first time he's seen another campus. He's visited, I believe, SMU, Indiana, and LSU. I think he also saw Florida in the spring, but not for an official visit. And this is one that Charlie Williams has been all over. He's said that Will Muschamp has been the primary contact in this recruitment since he arrived at Texas, and that they've been telling him, "We want you on campus. We want to see you, and we're looking forward to seeing you at some point in June." This one materialized pretty quickly, and you could go see Charlie's intel over on Inside Texas. But this is not a scouting trip for Texas Tech, and or at least that's not the returns that Charlie has got and that Inside Texas has got. He's asking football questions. He's trying to figure out what the fit is and where he would what he would look like playing in a Will Muschamp defense. So obviously with high profile recruits who have 5 stars by their name and are the number one overall prospect in ILs is going to matter. But one thing I mentioned on the board the other day is like somebody was like, "Oh, Joey's sending him to learn the." It's like, do we not think that Texas and Texas Tech are going to be playing a pretty similar game when it comes to dollar figures on a prospect like this? So that box is very likely checked by anybody who's still recruiting him. He's actually looking for the football info, and that's that's encouraging that he wants to learn more about the fit. He's been to Austin before. He knows what the Longhorns are about, but to know what a new defensive coordinator is bringing to the table, that's a good return on time investment from Will Muschamp for continuing this pursuit. We'll see how it carries over and carries on as the weekend goes on.
I love that you had to address like the scouting trip for Tech, because like I feel like the mind goes one way or the other when you see this. A lot of fans said, "Hey, we can do this. We're about to go take a big dog from Tech," and then the other was like, "It's a secret spy who's down. He's here to take down the whole mission." So I love that you touched on that. But again, love that Will Muschamp and the staff, they're doing their due diligence. They're throwing their ring in the hat. If he's asking football questions, obviously he's taking a couple of other trips. So, that makes me feel comfortable. It's not, some scouting trip or scouting mission. But yeah, just do what you can. Obviously, Texas is going to be able to compete from an NIL perspective. And so hopefully, the other fits just all line up, and who knows, maybe Texas gets themselves back into that recruitment. From a confidence standpoint, not asking you to speculate too much, but I mean, as far as Jalen and Texas down the line, like how much flirtation do you think there is after this visit? And it's probably hard to tell since we're in the middle of it.
Yeah, we'll see where he goes. I think he has another official visit set up. I think he definitely has his Texas Tech one at the end of the month. And of course, being a Cedar Hill prospect, there are connections. That's where Joey McGuire coached and won state championships for so many years.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of DFW inroads been made by Tech and their front office apparatus. So this is one where you just keep chipping away. With so many of these high profile recruitments, it's not done till the ink is dry. And usually right before the ink is dry, the last and best offers are made. So Texas just being able to get him on an official visit, have the glitz and glamour part of it, but also have the football and enjoyable part of everything. And he's also there's some familiar faces. I can't remember if Brewster transferred into Cedar Hill or not. Maybe I'm confusing him with another lineman, but the Coleman triplets are all on campus, and they're Cedar Hill Longhorns, who are Longhorns. So there's definitely a few different familiar faces who can tell them about what it's like at Texas and their fit and things like that. And just with these type of recruitments, you just have to keep hanging around until he says just no over and over again, or until the ink is dry.
Fully agree with you there. And again, I think the staff has done such a really good job with, maybe they're in their eyes, those must get recruits over these last couple of cycles. The ones that they really dial it in on. And again, we'll see what exactly this recruitment looks like going down the line. But let's move on to another defender. Texas has got a heck of an edge room on this one, not just a two deep. Talk about Richard Wesley getting further down that depth chart. Very impressive group. But you gotta keep stacking edge rushers, right? You got to be able to have guys out there. So we're going to go to Jabari Escobar out of Mobile, Alabama. How's the visit going? How does Texas see this young man? Talk to us a little bit about that, Joe.
Yeah, so at this point, there's not a drastic change in what Will Muschamp's defense asks from the edge position, at least for Garora's spot. When PK was recruiting, and obviously Lau and Clark has stayed there, this position looks pretty similar. It's that weak side spot. That's where Derwin Fields, who's also on his official visit, kind of fits in. Guys like Cam Hall, and then another major target who's on campus, Marcus Facato, fit in more toward that strong side spot that you're going to see Lance Jackson play a lot of. So at the same time, those guys, Will Muschamp found guys that fit what he's looking for, but this edge room is starting to get old. And there's just guys who are going to either go to the NFL or exhaust their eligibility very soon. So you got to replenish that pipeline. If you've got Fields on your weak side and you've got Hall likely projecting to the strong side, you want to add a couple more to both positions. And Garor fits that weak side. One-time Alabama commit, someone who has been in contact with Alan Clark a lot, and inside Texas, and Charlie Williams said that everything is feeling right on this visit. Is the returns he's gotten. So Auburn still looms in this one, and this is an opportunity for Alan Clark to go into the Southeast and grab someone from not only under Alabama's clutches, but also Auburn's as well. And that's one thing, Auburn, just to kind of bring it up, there are a handful of prospects with some Auburn and Texas overlap. As you might expect with a new head coach and Alex Galesh, he's doing the whole, like, you can come in and play, you can do this, you can get some time right away. That's a sell for Garrar. And remember, Auburn also kept DJ Durkin at defensive coordinator. So that relationship still has kind of carried over. But Texas, I think inside Texas, we have Eric Naline with a prediction in for him. I think there are some others in the industry who followed up, and it's hard not to. It's difficult to filter, if there's ever any like drawbacks or bad news from an official visit weekend, because they make it such an enjoyable process. But
Right.
A lot of things a lot of priors appear to have been confirmed on Garrar and where Texas stands with them.
Hey, love to hear it, man. And again, going to the state of Alabama and pulling a kid from both Alabama and Auburn, it's not an easy task. But credit to Alan Clark, who's obviously done a really good job in recruiting since he's gotten to Texas. I like he's battling, old Longhorn Coleman Hutchler there for a little bit. I think that he's primary, right?
I'd have to think so. And maybe, Durkin's a safety guy, I think, by trade. Hutzler's
Right.
more linebacker, if that sounds
Yeah.
right. So that makes a lot of sense just for both those guys to be involved, especially I'm sure Hutzler was at least communicating with him a little bit when he was at Mississippi State. So probably some carryover relationship there as well.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, staying on the defensive side, though, but moving on to another prospect, a young man that's very, very coveted at a very, very coveted position, just came off a official visit to College Station, in which a lot of Aggies felt like they made a little bit of a move on John Meredith. Talk to us about John. How this is a huge weekend for Texas to maybe not cement this. A lot of people think this recruitment is going to go a long ways, but also a lot of people think that Texas can really, kind of make their final stamp on this recruitment this weekend.
I think from what we've kind of tended to gather, everybody feels confident on this one. There's confidence on the A&M side. There's confidence on the Texas side. A&M's corner class, I think, already features a very highly rated prospect. I think it's Josh Dobson.
Mhm.
That's an expensive player, but as we've kind of seen with the Aggies, and of course with the Longhorns, like they can get multiple expensive players. So, but John Meredith, Will Muschamp's been on that one. Mark Orfe has long been working that relationship, and John Meredith is someone I remember, back when covering 2027s was like, whoa, this is way too early. I remember him showing up to camps and getting offers and going through junior days and thinking like, okay, that's someone who definitely looks the part of a top prospect. And now he's the number 2 overall prospect. So lots of familiar faces again for Meredith. North Crowley obviously has the Turntines. They have Deuce Cunningham. That's been a program that Texas has definitely recruited hard over the past couple of years. And Meredith has seen a lot of familiar faces. He and I believe he even made it in for a spring visit, if I recall. So it's not like this is a place he has to get reaccustomed to. It's looking like Texas and Texas A&M, but Texas has a chance if they can get things going the right way on Brewster and get things going the right way on Meredith. Nobody has signed the number 1 and number 2 overall prospect in a cycle since 2010, and that was at Florida. And it was a linebacker and I think a defensive lineman for Urban Meyer. And it's kind of crazy to think that in the age of Nick Saban and even Kirby Smart and even Texas Tech, like that still hasn't happened since 2010. And some of it has to do with if you have 2 quarterbacks going 1-2. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not going to get both those guys. But the fact that Texas has a chance to do something, if everything stays static, a lot of rankings updates, a lot of things can happen. But they have a very, very strong chance to, or at least are one of the few teams that could sign the top 2 prospects, not only in the state of Texas, but in the entire country.
Yeah, and I mean, again, there's got to be a coaching staff out there that'd be like, "Hey, I'm gonna stick my chest out and try to go get that." Maybe the fit doesn't even make sense as far as like, it could be a numbers buster a little bit, but eventually, like I said, it's surprising that somebody hasn't, in 16 years been able to do that. But huge John Meredith fan again. I do think A&M, everybody felt like they had a lot of confidence coming out of that visit last weekend. But I mean, I know the Texas likes where they're at this. Still work to be done. Still going to be work to do after this weekend with Meredith, Joe. It's a heck of a kid and a heck of an athlete, and again, very, very coveted. So, any other defensive players, offensive players, anybody on the 40 acres or coming soon that you want to touch on before we move over to a little bit of hardball?
One thing I did see is Brock Williams, tight end commit. He is taking his official visit this weekend. I don't think there was like a fully solidified date, but he's in town with JT Geraci, his fellow tight end commit. He's got a twin brother, Reed Williams, and he's also in town. I think it's probably his official visit too. Likely someone who's going to get a preferred walk-on opportunity at Texas. Justin Wells has been all over that. He's got the Ivy and I think some MAC offers.
Mhm.
So that's the type of player that he is. But that's the type of player that you have room for, especially when you're looking at maybe one of the highest ranked tight ends that you've taken while Steve Sarkisian's been head coach. Yeah, you add someone like that. You add a player who, if you're at Texas, your scout team probably looks like a MAC team or at some stages and could look like some other G6 teams. So makes a lot of sense. It was cool to see that. Other than that, going through the list of just a big one that we're going to keep an eye on and try to get more info on is Junior Tuopo. We have a good sense of the cornerback board. The defensive line board has a lot of names, and it's kind of like, okay, if you get 3 of those guys, you're in good shape. Edge, you know what you're looking for. Linebacker is narrowing, but the still names are known. The safety board's a little bit more of a mystery, especially not necessarily a mystery, but they're trying to find, or we're trying to find, and I think they are too, the guys that they know they lead for and can push to try to get into the class. So Junior Topo from Alabaster, Alabama, goes to a really strong program there in Thompson. He's in town with his family. Blake Gideon has maintained that relationship, probably starting at Texas, going to Georgia Tech, and then coming back to Texas. So that's one that we're tracking, especially with Greedy Williams not only profiling the corner, but also taking a number of visits. LSU, Notre Dame, all involved there, and with a lot of different schools in pursuit of some top targets like Dylan McGee, who's got versatility. The defensive, at least the safety recruiting picture is one that probably needs a little bit more clarity. And if Tuopo is someone that they make a move for, that would tremendously help, especially after they shot pretty high in the early part of the cycle and fell short for even some top in-state guys like Jaquan Snell, who shut down his recruitment, like Eli Johnson, who's committed to Ohio State. They need to be able to find somebody and get them in the class. And if Tuopo is that guy, then that's a good process to get them that type of player on their board.
I mean, I hate to like throw the term like, floor setter for, but like that would be a pretty quality, if you get to get Tiopo in the class and then, you build around that, decide what you want to do with that second fit or potentially more bodies. And just real quick on Greedy, like how does Texas treat that recruitment, considering the guy is taking so many visits? And again, how does Texas feel about it? And then, maybe how does Texas proceed down the line?
I mean, I know that they're not enthused and happy that they are having to keep a guy in the class who's taking a lot of visits, but we've seen some programs be very, very strict about what they allow commits to do as far as visits goes. Texas understands that this is part of the process, but if nothing has happened at this point, it's obvious that they want him in the class and they view him as a corner. And LSU, Notre Dame, even I believe LSU, Notre Dame are the main two, but Texas gets that last OV, and then he'll hopefully if you're the Longhorns, you hear him shut it down, and then your defensive back picture starts to take a lot more shape.
Yeah, good point. Again, it seems like, clarity again, maybe to come safety and also to maybe to come in Greedy's recruitment as well. Always fun to talk a little bit of recruiting here, and obviously a great time to do so with everybody that we have on campus. Real quick, guys, we're going to hear from Luxe Kitchen and Bath, and we're going to get into some Austin super regional talk.
Are you ready to love your kitchen and bathroom again? Luxe Kitchen and Bath will bring that to life. Luxe has been offering high-end kitchen and bathroom remodels for 3 generations throughout the greater Austin area. With 5-star review after 5-star review on Google and Facebook and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, you can put your faith in Luxe Kitchen and Bath's award-winning designers and skilled craftspeople to bring your dream vision to life. But that's not all. Luxe's all-star team also provides full home remodels, large additions, and even commercial build-outs as well. So call Luxe Kitchen and Bath at 833-358-LUXE today, or visit luxekitchenbath.com to discover where quality meets luxury and begin the process of transforming your home. Get your free quote today by calling 833-358-LUXE. That's LUXE, or by visiting luxekitchenbath.com. Contact info is in the description.
All right, Joe, we've got Mark Wazakowski and those Oregon Ducks coming to Austin for 2 of 3 super regional. Hey, man, the vibes are going to be awesome. The crowd's going to be electric. I guarantee you that. I love the late start. But how are we feeling about the matchup on the field, brother? What do you think about these Ducks?
This is an interesting one because you look around the entire super regional round, and the only other, I think, national seed versus national seed matchup is Mississippi State and Georgia. And I don't know if you're tracking that, but the Dogs are up on the Dogs 7-0.
Wow.
Mississippi State's up 7-0 in the fourth, and that's in Athens. So, I mean, this is, when you're number 6 and you draw number 11, this is a possibility. So they're all good at this point. It's the last 16. But I do think if you're Texas, you're confident anytime you see number 99 go to the mound. You know that Dylan Volantis is one of the best pitchers in the country. He's going to have a full Dish Falk field behind him. And he's got a lineup that has looked really, really strong over the past couple of weeks, at least in the regional round when they were at home. And, they put up run rule-esque numbers in the first couple games, got to 6 against UC Santa Barbara, which has a good staff. And, yeah, they didn't have to face Jackson Flora, but the fact that they were still able to get out of there pretty quickly in 3 games is a positive. So game 1's always important. We have seen Texas lose game 1 and still make it. But I think last time that happened may have been 2018. So it's no easy feat, especially with Ruger Riojas just being in the state that he is. I don't know what other way to put it, but just the fact that he's he's not 100%. That's the way to look at it. But you need guys like Aiden Robbins, like Anthony Pack, like Carson Tenney, and to continue to get those big hits. And you need your kind of unsung heroes and somebody to step up to continue to step up, whether that's Pendergrass, whether that's Larson, or Mendoza, Becerra, just somebody else from that bottom four of the lineup needs to continue. Somebody just needs to be that guy who pops up, gets that extra base hit, and allows the top of the lineup that typically gets on to continue to go and go.
That's a great point, and not to make it more about the softball, but like that's what you saw in game two. There was, I was concerned going through that tournament. I was like, I don't really love the production from the bottom of the lineup, but next thing you know, Kyle Altmaier, Ashton Maloney, they came through in one of the biggest innings of the season, producing at the right times, man. Just like you said, 1 through 9, finding ways to get on. Hey, those bottom guys got to be table setters, in my opinion, for a very good top of the lineup, middle of the lineup, obviously for Texas. Let's talk about Oregon pitching a little bit, man. They don't walk a lot of guys. We know who the three are. But at the end of the day, like it kind of feels like Texas has a pitching matchup. If there is 3 games, Monday or Saturday through Monday, we'd have an advantage. But yeah, what do you think about this Ducks rotation?
I'm thinking about the Big Ten in baseball, and I know UCLA was what it was, very good team. USC is obviously on the cusp of going to Omaha again. And then somebody else in the Big Ten always kind of like pops up. But it's not a conference that just is teeming with baseball talent, except Oregon does do a good job of bringing kids up there from the West Coast, from Seattle. That's them and Oregon State. They've been doing that for a long time. And so if you're there, what you're trying to tell your pitchers is like, look, these guys aren't going to be able to catch up with you. These guys aren't going to be able to match up with what you're able to throw. Make them put it in play, because odds are they may not be able to with that level of competition. So I think they've got a good amount of strike throwers. As you said, they keep walks down. There will be some, high round talent that makes it up there. And especially when you look at, even though I think they had an injury hit their rotation, they still have a guy with a quality ERA. I think Nash said it's Scolari who's going in game 1. But the thing that really stands out to me is the fact that I remember, staying up late and it being like 10:30, and it's like the Eugene Super Regional. And I'd seen that about 5 or 6 times, it feels like, in 10 years. But I looked it up, and they haven't been to the College World Series in like 60 years. So this is a program that's got a lot of hunger. It has been successful, but it's also operated in the shadow of its in-state rival. And it's also just not been able to get over the Omaha hump in some time. So there's a lot of motivation for Oregon to come in and make it to Omaha for the first time in a long time. But there's similar motivation for Jim Schlossnagle to get back there, to get there for the first time as Texas head coach. And I guess that would make it at least 3. I wonder if there's a 4th, maybe at UNLV, that I'm forgetting. But getting TCU, Texas A&M, and Texas all the way to Omaha would be a real great mark on his resume. And when you look at the rest of the bracket, there really aren't a ton of like teams that strike fear in you. Everybody at this point is hot, and everybody at this point is playing good ball. But at this juncture, the teams that are left, you kind of look around and you're like, man, Texas is, there's a good reason they have really good odds to win the national championship at this point. So obviously important series. They're all important. Love the primetime treatment that not only that Texas is getting, but that college baseball is getting. Love that, that I think looking outside, the weather is a lot better than the rainstorm that woke me up at about 2:30 last night. And humid air, we'll see what happens with the pitching and how that affects things. But man, I'm excited to keep an eye on that one and check out what happens in the Austin Super Regional.
Absolutely, man. I'm excited to get up to the dish. It's been too long for myself, but is that confirmed? Cal Scolari throwing game 1 for Oregon?
I think that's what Nash wrote when I read his stuff this morning, and I think they had a press conference with the Oregon head coach yesterday. I think he announced both of their starter or their game 1 and game 2 starters. Let me double check. I'll try to do this on the fly as fast as possible.
You're great.
Game 1 starter. Yep, Cal Scolari, and then Will Stanford will be game 2 for
Yeah,
Oregon.
Sanford again with the it leads them in wins, but with from an ERA perspective, it's he's supposed to a lot of contact. Again, I just sometimes your offense goes out and supports you. Sometimes you can have a high winner. I mean, Cal Scolari's got half the ERA that Sanford does. Again, doesn't have the same amount of innings, but I don't know if you've seen much of his stuff, Joe, but he can absolutely get a swing and miss out of you. He's got great swing and miss stuff, and I think that's the big difference from him and the rest of this Oregon pitching staff. There's a lot of throwing to contact. This guy's going to produce a lot of swings and misses, so really need Texas to lock in there. I think it's an excellent decision, honestly. If I am Oregon,
Yeah,
because it's a 3-game series, you got to try to win game 1, and
yeah.
Texas has 99 over there, so I think that's a savvy play. But again, love to get more familiar with Oregon baseball as that we host them. I didn't realize it had been 60 years. That kind of worries me a little bit from a motivation standpoint, but we're going to let Joe out of here real quick. Always love having him on. Talking a little bit of baseball, obviously does a great job with recruiting. Thanks for Charlie and Justin on all the updates there. And guys, I threw out the wrong sales. Summertime. I'm lost here. 50% off on the Ultimate Fan Bundle. That is the active IT on-3 sale that you can come and join us with right now. Joe, any final words, brother?
I'm good. Thanks for doing this, Cord.
Of course. Have a happy Saturday, guys. Thanks for watching Inside Texas. Joe, thanks for being here, my man. And hook 'em horns.